Japanese history records hundreds of clans destroyed during the chaotic Sengoku period. From brave samurai beheaded on the battlefield to daimyo betrayed in their own castles, each story has a clear ending. Some historical pages detail the final battles. Some graves were erected, some descendants were hunted down to the third generation. But with the Iga ninja, history only records one thing: they disappeared. After 1581, when the Tensho Iga no Ran campaign ended, no execution orders were announced, no casualty lists were kept, no descendants were pursued, just a strange void in the historical records. Where there should have been pages recording the glorious victory of Oda Nobunaga, known as the Sixth Heaven Demon King, there are only a few short lines. Iga has been pacified. What made the Iga ninja different from every other armed group of that era, to the point where they could vanish without leaving a trace? This is not a question for lovers of swordsmanship stories, but a true historical mystery, because the disappearance of a complete military organization without records is almost impossible in medieval Japanese society, where recording and archiving were valued more than in any other civilization. Iga, the birthplace of a different kind of ninja. To understand the disappearance of the Iga ninja, we must first understand how they were different from the roots. Iga, located in the rugged mountains between Kyoto and Nara, was one of the strangest places in Sengoku-era Japan. While most lands submitted to the rule of a daimyo, a feudal lord, Iga operated under a completely different model. There was no lord in Iga, no central castle, no single clan strong enough to dominate the entire region. Instead, Iga was run by a system called Iki, a loose alliance of ninja clans that met to make joint decisions when necessary, but still maintain the independence of each clan. This created a fundamental difference. Iga ninja were not absolutely loyal to one lord, but loyal to the survival of the community. While samurai lived and died by the phrase, "loyalty is life," the Iga ninja understood that survival was the top priority. This is not a story of cowardice, but of a completely different philosophy of life, one that would later determine their fate. A common misconception about ninja is that they operated as lone assassins hiding in the shadows. The reality of the Iga ninja was the complete opposite. They were a tightly structured military organization, with clear training and task assignment systems no less than a regular army. Each ninja clan in Iga had carefully recorded genealogies, noting lineage, characteristic skills, and past achievements. Training did not take place secretly in dark caves, but in groups, with participation from the entire family and community. Children began learning basic skills from ages 5 to 6, climbing, swimming, hiding, and most importantly, observation. In a typical mission, Iga ninja did not act alone. They had clear role divisions. Scouts, Metsuke, those who went ahead to gather information, draw terrain maps, identify guard positions. Infiltrators, shinobi, those who carried out the main task, assassination, sabotage, or stealing documents. Distractors, kido, those who created noise, set fires, or pretended to be drunk to divert attention from the main target. Rear support, keibi, those waiting to assist escape, carrying medicine, changing clothes. These were not the lonely assassins of legend. The Iga ninja were an organization, operating with precision and coordination, rivaling any special forces unit in military history. Actions that made Iga, terrifying guerrilla tactics that humiliated regular armies. In 1579, Oda Nobunaga, who had nearly unified Japan through overwhelming military power, decided to wipe out Iga. This was not a random decision. Iga was in a strategic position between Kyoto and the eastern regions, and an independent armed force like that was a potential threat to his unification ambitions. Nobunaga's son, Oda Nobukatsu, was tasked with leading the first campaign with an army of 8,000 men, a force strong enough to defeat most small daimyo of that era. Nobukatsu marched into Iga, with the confidence of a young noble trained in regular battles, where both sides lined up face to face and fought openly. But the Iga ninja did not play by those rules. They did not engage in direct combat. When Nobukatsu's army entered a village, they only saw ordinary villagers farming. When they camped overnight, darkness became their worst enemy. Attacks occurred at 2 to 3 a.m., when people were most exhausted. Not frontal attacks, but destroying supply depots, burning or poisoning food sources, leaving soldiers with nothing to eat. Assassinating low-level commanders. Not targeting heavily guarded high generals, but killing squad leaders and guides. Disrupting the chain of command. Creating panic. Shooting poison arrows from darkness. Releasing snakes into tents. Beating drums at night to deprive soldiers of sleep. After 3 weeks, Nobukatsu's army was not defeated in any battle, but they were plunged into complete chaos. Morale collapsed. Few were killed, but no one dared sleep soundly. No one trusted their surroundings. They withdrew in disgrace, and Nobukatsu suffered humiliation from his own father. The most special thing in the Iga ninja's fighting style was not combat skills, but the ability to leave no trace. Records from the Oda Nobunaga side noted with clear frustration, "Our army could not trace the origin of the attacks. Villagers said they knew nothing. No prisoners could be captured for interrogation. The attackers vanished into thin air." This was something samurai, warriors trained for open combat, proud of honor and clan, could not do. In samurai culture, fighting anonymously was a disgrace. Even in victory, they had to declare their name and clan. But the Iga ninja operated on the opposite principle. If no one knows who you are, no one can revenge against you. They used the rugged mountain terrain as a tool. Every villager in Iga knew the shortcuts, hidden caves, river sections that could be crossed. They could move in pitch darkness without torches, thanks to footsteps familiar from childhood. To outside armies, Iga was like a living maze. The deeper you went, the easier to get lost and be attacked. The Iga ninja understood something many strategists of that era did not. No need for big victories, just make the enemy no longer want to fight. Their goal was not to annihilate the enemy, but to, 1, make the enemy afraid, create the feeling that death could come anytime, from anywhere. 2, prolong the campaign. The longer the enemy stayed in Iga, the more costly and demoralizing. 3, raise the cost of invasion, to the point where the Lord had to ask, is conquering Iga worth it? This was guerrilla warfare philosophy applied from the 16th century, before the term was even defined. They did not try to oppose enemy strength, but made that strength useless. And this was why they were seen as a threat that must be eradicated. Because in the world of samurai and daimyo, power was based on imposing will through force. If a small group in the mountains could neutralize that force, the entire power system was threatened. After his son's failure, Oda Nobunaga decided to handle Iga himself. In 1581, he no longer saw this as a normal military campaign. This was an extermination campaign, not to conquer, but to wipe out. Nobunaga mobilized a massive force, 40,000 to 60,000 soldiers, 5 to 7 times the number in the first invasion. This was an army larger than many wars between major daimyo. For comparison, Nobunaga's famous miraculous victory at Okehazama involved only a few thousand people. But numbers were not the only factor. The strategy this time was completely different. Multi-directional encirclement, army advanced into Iga from 6 different directions, leaving no escape route. Burn villages, burn forests, destroy all hiding places, all food sources, block retreat paths, place guards on every mountain road, every river crossing. No discrimination. Kill anyone suspicious, regardless of age or gender. This was not war. This was a systematic purge. Facing overwhelming force, the Iga ninja did not do what most other military forces would. They did not defend a stronghold to the death. They did not gather for a final heroic battle. They did not try to negotiate surrender. They split up, dispersed, and vanished. The ninja clans quickly realized they could not win this time, but they also understood Nobunaga's goal was total annihilation, so survival meant making the enemy unable to find them. Many groups disbanded during the campaign, split into small units of 2 to 3 people, retreat deep into mountain caves, disguise as merchants, farmers, monks, leave Iga via secret paths only they knew. The point that surprises modern historians: there was no final battle of the Iga ninja. In most historical conquests, there is always a decisive battle where the losing side fights desperately to the last man. But with Iga, there was no such battle. They simply were no longer there. When the campaign ended after about 2 months, Oda Nobunaga declared victory. Iga had been pacified, but when reading the records carefully, we discover something strange. No specific evidence of this victory. In Nobunaga's other campaigns, records detail number of heads cut, names of executed leaders, clans destroyed, enemy children captured as hostages or killed. For example, when Nobunaga destroyed the Iko-Iki Buddhist monasteries at Mount Hiei in 1571, records note, 3,000 to 4,000 killed, from monks to women and children. This was a horrific crime, but fully documented. But with Iga, almost no numbers, no list of destroyed ninja clans, no record of publicly displaying heads as typical Sengoku intimidation, no orders to hunt descendants for years afterward. This was completely different from how Oda Nobunaga handled every other enemy. He was famous for ruthlessness and thoroughness. When he destroyed a clan, he ensured no one survived to seek revenge. So why was Iga different? The answer is not that Nobunaga did not want to destroy the Iga ninja, but that he could not find them to destroy. When Oda's army left, Iga became a devastated land. Villages burned, fields ruined, but no massive piles of bodies, no mass graves. Estimated deaths only a few hundred to 1,000, surprisingly small for the campaign's scale. The Iga ninja had completed their final and most important skill, vanishing without a trace. Iga was not erased by sword and fire. They erased themselves from history by refusing to leave any evidence of their existence as an organized force. After the Tensho Iga no Ron campaign ended, thousands of Iga ninja vanished into everyday Japanese life. But they did not simply hide, they completely transformed. The process was systematic. Abandon old surnames. In Japanese society, family name was the most important identifier. One could change appearance, but changing name without suspicion was hard. However, the Sengoku period was special. War displaced millions, many lost families, and had to start over. Iga ninja exploited this chaos. They took new names, created stories of losing family in war, completely plausible then. No public transmission. This was the hardest decision. In Japanese culture, passing skills from father to son was a sacred duty, but Iga ninja understood that teaching descendants traditional ninja techniques would eventually expose them, so they only passed skills disguisable as civilian ones. Sharp observation became merchant skill. Climbing and balance became builder skill. Herbal medicine became pharmacist skill. Reading people became service worker skill. Berry skills in everyday life, an Iga ninja could become a gardener in Kyoto, a silk merchant traveling between cities, a monk in a small temple, a rice farmer in a distant village. They lived so ordinarily that no one could suspect the kind neighbor was once an Iga warrior. Not all Iga ninja chose complete disappearance. Some, especially those with outstanding skills, found new employers, but no one called them ninja anymore. Tokugawa Ieyasu, who later became the shogun unifying Japan, was famous for recruiting surviving Iga ninja. There was a practical reason. Ieyasu knew the value of these people in the new world forming. After Toyotomi Hideyoshi completed unification, 1590, and then when Tokugawa Ieyasu won at Sekigahara, 1600, Japan entered the Edo period, 250 years of peace. But peace did not mean no need for security. On the contrary, maintaining peace required more effective intelligence than ever. Former Iga ninja recruited by Tokugawa took new roles. Secret agents, onmitsu, gather information on daimyo, detect rebellion plots. Messengers, transport important information secretly and quickly. Secret guards, protect the shogun and family without anyone knowing. Security advisors, help design defense systems for Edo Castle. They survived by changing identity, no longer warriors of an independent organization, but anonymous tools of the Tokugawa government. But this anonymity was what allowed them to exist. Looking back at the whole story, we realize the most important skill of the Iga ninja was not assassination, not invisibility, but erasing their own traces. In samurai culture, honor was life. A samurai would die to protect his and his clan's honor. But the Iga ninja understood something else. If no one knows who you are, no one can harm you. This was a form of victory that samurai culture could not comprehend. You do not defeat the enemy by killing them. You defeat them by making them unable to find you. You win by not existing. The Edo period, 1603 to 1868, was the longest peace in Japanese history. No more wars, samurai gradually lost military roles and became bureaucrats. And ninja, they had no public role anymore. But this was when something strange happened. Ninja became more famous than ever, but as fictional characters. In this era, Japan saw an explosion of popular culture. Kabuki theaters, popular novels, and stories all needed captivating characters. And ninja, with mysterious skills, transformation abilities, and vague history, became perfect material. Stories began appearing. Ninja could turn into animals. Ninja could walk on water. Ninja could become invisible in daylight. Ninja could fight alone against 100 samurai. All fiction, but they spread quickly because real ninja no longer existed to deny them. The actual ninja lived quietly, never claiming to be ninja. They wrote no memoirs. They did not correct false stories. They just stayed silent and lived on. The historical void filled by imagination. This is ironic. Real ninja lived quietly to survive, and that silence created space for legendary ninja to develop. Modern historians struggle with this. When researching ninja, they find very few original documents written by ninja. Most ninja training books written in the Edo period, when ninja no longer operated. Many ninja techniques, actually common military tactics, labeled ninja to sell books. Stories of famous ninja often lack reliable historical evidence. But this is not a sign of non-existence. On the contrary, it is a sign of successful strategy. Iga ninja systematically erase themselves from history to the point even posterity cannot recover their true face. Samurai die to leave a name. Iga ninja live so no one remembers their name. This is not an empty proverb. It summarizes two completely opposing life philosophies in Japanese history. Samurai believed in magic fame, honor, name remembered forever. They fought to leave a mark in history. When a samurai committed seppuku, they did so partly to have their death remembered as noble. Iga ninja believed in seasoned survival, existence, sustaining life. Not because they were cowards, but because they understood only by living could they protect community, family, and tradition. Honor is good, but the dead cannot protect their descendants. And here is the astonishing historical twist. The disappearance of the Iga ninja was not defeat, it was their ultimate victory. Consider the facts. Oda Nobunaga, who wanted to destroy Iga, died in 1582, just 1 year after the campaign. By betrayal, many major Sengoku daimyo clans were completely wiped out. The samurai system was eventually abolished in the Meiji Restoration, 1868. But descendants of Iga ninja? They are still there. We just don't know who they are. Modern genetic research shows many Japanese in Mie and Shiga provinces, Old Iga, have DNA indicating ancestors with special lifestyles, higher leg strength and mobility than average. But none claimed to be ninja descendants, because that would break the 400-year vow of silence. The story of the Iga ninja is not just an interesting historical chapter. It is a lesson in survival strategy, the power of adaptation, and that sometimes victory means not fighting. In today's world, when organizations and individuals face massive changes, technology, politics, economy, the Iga ninja story reminds us, sometimes the best way to survive is not resisting change, but changing to the point no one recognizes you anymore. They did not fight to the end in a final heroic battle. They did not let honor slow their steps. They did not try to be remembered forever in history. They simply disappeared. And by that, they survived one of the most violent periods in Japanese history. The disappearance of the Iga ninja was their final artwork. A perfect ninja performance not on the battlefield stage, but on the stage of history. And to this day, we still do not know exactly where they went, who they became, and whether any of us are talking to an Iga ninja descendant without knowing it.